Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable. I hope you're all well. This is my first run review of the On Cloudboom Strike. Now I know this has been out for a while. I've been waiting for the LS version, but I basically got fed up of waiting. So I thought I'd get this in, give it the lowdown and let you know whether I think this is be a good purchase for you. So in this review, we'll go through some key stats. I'll tell you what it felt like to run in this shoe. We'll go through some pros and cons around the shoe. I'll tell you some shoes that it reminded me of, and we'll go through some of its competition. Watch the run footage of me running in this shoe, gives you some idea of what I felt as I actually ran on it. So I did two runs. I did a short run in Battersea Park on Thursday, and I did a much longer run, 25k around my local neighbourhood in Barnet. I didn't record any of that run, but I'll send you the Strava link so you can see. They were very different experiences actually, and we'll cover that in the rest of the review. But first and foremost, watch the run footage, and then afterwards we'll have the full review of the On Cloudboom Strike. Great name, great looking shoe actually. Yeah, my first On shoe as well. See you later. Bye bye. Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable. Yeah, a bit of a later run for me today. It's I'm in Chelsea, but I haven't been able to get out for lunch. So I'm doing it's roughly about 4 p.m. now, so I'm going to do a nice sort of afternoon run in Battersea Park. And I've got some new shoes, and let me show you them. Yeah, the On Cloudboom Strikes. They're not the LS version. I've been waiting for them for ages, and I just got fed up of waiting. You just can't get hold of them. So I've gone for these, the more traditional laced versions. And I want to just see what all the fuss is about, because I've seen quite a few reviewers giving these really good reviews. One or two not so great, saying they're a bit firm. Others weirdly saying they're really soft and bouncy. So let me be the judge of that for you guys. Let me see what these shoes are about. I think I'm gonna have fun in these shoes already. Stepping feels a bit weird, to say the least. Feels like a negative drop. It feels like I've got more cushion in the forefoot than I have in the heel, which I know is not true, but it feels that way. And there's an insert in this shoe that forms part of the midsole, and I think that's the reason why it's feeling like that. But we can discuss all that with the proper review when I get back home. But for now, I'll show you some run footage of me running in the park. I'm only going to do about 4 or 5k because I'm planning a secret race tomorrow. Maybe it could be my last one before the marathon, my last serious workout anyway. But yeah, let me start my run and let me tell you how it feels in these shoes. I'm quite excited. I'll see you later. Bye bye. Alright, it's a bit windy here. I'm not sure where this wind's come from, but I'm getting it right in my face at the moment, which means it's nice and cool, but it's not very easy to run in. So what I am feeling with this shoe though, straight away, these Cloudboom Strikes, is they've got a nice bounce to them and a lovely cushion under the forefoot. They really have. Feels like I've got a massive stack under my forefoot. Be interested to find out what it actually is with the insert, but I'm guessing it's pretty substantial from how it feels. I feel like the foam is quite dense. It's not like TPE that you get in the Pro 4. It's denser than that. Feeling very much like the old light strike you get in the Pro 3. and the Primex Strung and Primex Strung 2 does actually remind me a little bit of the Primex, the feeling. I think it's a shoe that also has quite a wedge under your forefoot, so it's giving me those kind of vibes. Absolutely no ground feel in this shoe. Feels fairly rigid, doesn't feel that flexible, so probably good for you people with toe mobility issues. You're not going to have to do much work with your toes with this shoe, and I'm thinking basically because of the plate alignment, and also because of how dense this foam is. It's not to say this is firm, but it's not the softest ride that I've ever had. I think this will probably need some breaking in, this shoe, but it's not, say, Endorphin Elite original firm. I see it kind of like Light Strike Pro firm. Really, it's the closest foam I'm feeling to this one. I think it's called Helium, their version of Piva that they've got in this shoe. Could be wrong, I need to check that. But yeah, it's a nice ride, nice and bouncy. In terms of fit, I went true to size 9, and I think that's about right in this shoe. I think if you go any bigger, you could have lockdown issues. There's not a load of space in the forefoot, but there's enough for foot, you know, for a bit of swelling of your toes. So I think true to size is fine. Get decent width actually, which surprised me. I thought this would be a bit more constraining on my foot, but it's not. It's quite nice width. I can splay my toes, and I've got quite wide feet, so that is good. Yeah, all in all, quite a comfortable, nice ride. It's just a tiny bit more firm than I was expecting, but I think definitely needs some breaking in, so I'm glad I'm going on this run with it. If I am planning to use it tomorrow in a half marathon, which I need to decide, I definitely need to break it in a little bit, I feel. So that's the feel and fit. In terms of the ride, it's bouncy without being ridiculous, so it's not as bouncy as the Primex. I'm feeling a similar sort of ride, but not quite as wild as that shoe. A bit more stable than that shoe as well. Although to be fair, that Primex Strung, I only really had issues if I ever took it on unstable ground, you know, uneven ground. Because I land predominantly on my forefoot, I never had that many issues with stability with that shoe. It would take it out of my ankles quite a lot. Whereas this shoe, despite there being some similarities, feels a bit more grounded, and it is a bit more grounded. I mean, you've got, pretty sure it's like race legal, so you can't have any more than 40 millimeters in the heel for a start. What else? It feels nice and light. Feels sort of similar weight to maybe the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0, that kind of weight. I don't feel the extreme rocker like I do in that shoe. It's not like one that tips you forward and keeps you flying forward. but it definitely is one that's quite nice to land on that forefoot because of how much foam you've got under your foot in that area. So cushioned. Like I said, that's kind of why it reminds me more of the Prime X Strung. I think of all the shoes I own, that's probably the one with the closest feeling to this in the forefoot. It's probably due to the amount of foam both have got. I took the insole out of this shoe, and that's where you get a lot of the midsole in the forefoot, because the insole there is a lot thicker in the forefoot. Why they did it that way around, I'm not sure. It sits on top of the plate, the insole, so protects you from the plate, but that means that still the plate's quite high up in this shoe. So if you are thinking of comparable shoes, it's more like the Sky Paris than the Edge for that reason. Higher plate configuration, but I'm not getting the same pop that I do from the Sky Paris. I'm getting a nice kind of rhythmic flow with this shoe, a nice bounce that's keeping me bounding along. Albeit, you know, not the softest of rides, but quite a nice bouncy ride. You get this pitter patter. My legs are pretty beaten up, to be honest, with lots of long distance recently, so I'm going to feel this a bit harsher than I might normally at the moment, so I don't want to be too judgmental on how firm it is, but because I've been running in shoes like the Endorphin Elite 2, the Pro 4 and the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0 recently, this is definitely a denser foam than those shoes, but still a nice bouncy ride. So not one that I am particularly worried about in terms of foot fatigue. I think it'd be fine. Just got to get used to it a bit more because of how soft those shoes have been. I mean, I'm bounding along here and it seems very easy to maintain a decent pace in this shoe. So I think over the longer distances, like half marathon, possibly marathon, this is going to be a good shoe. I'm not sensing at the moment, because it hasn't got that amazingly aggressive rocker. I'm not necessarily sensing this is going to be the fastest 5k shoe on the market. So if I compare this with the Edge Paris, which is another option for me tomorrow actually, because I haven't run a half marathon in that shoe yet, I feel like that is definitely a more aggressive shoe than this one. So I'm going to keep my options open right until the last minute tomorrow. I'm going to see how my legs feel. If they're feeling as beat up as this tomorrow, I might go with the Edge Paris, which I think is, because I've broken it in, foam's a little bit softer. That FF Plus Turbo is a little bit softer than this at the moment. I think probably purely because I've broken it in. But if my legs are feeling a bit better, I might well go with this shoe. It's always nice to test a new shoe in race conditions. And already the further I run in this, it seems to be softening up a bit now already, so that's a good sign. The race tomorrow is all the way in Walton on Thames, you know that area, so it's quite a distance for me, and I've got to get back to Chelsea afterwards, I think, so driving might be problematic in terms of parking, so I might try and do the trip by public transport, which means getting up early. But I really want to try and do something before I go to Berlin this weekend, because if I do this final half marathon as my workout, then I think I'll be all set for my marathon. You know, the timing of this weekend and being away is not great, in the sense that this was my last weekend to do a race. I wanted to do like another tester, so I might well do it tomorrow instead, tomorrow morning. It requires me to get up early though, so that could be a problem in itself. But going back to the first impressions of the shoe, to kind of wrap it up, it feels really nice and bouncy. Let's pick the pace up a little bit. Yeah, it's responding. Nice bounce to increasing the pace, which is nice. Let's do a bit of heel striking. Okay. Doesn't feel bad in the heel. It actually feels a bit softer in the heel. Probably the plate is lower down, getting less plate and more foam. I have to check that out, the plate configuration. But heel doesn't seem too bad for those of you that are heel strikers. So it feels a little bit better than say the Pro 4 in the Dolphin Elite 2. The only thing I would say is the transition from heel to forefoot isn't the smoothest. So again, I'm not totally convinced of this being a brilliant one for heel strikers. Unfortunately. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So, summary: upper, true to size, wide enough, light. Whole shoe is light, feels light and airy. Don't mind the upper, to be honest. Seems quite nice. Not really noticing it, which is good. Lockdown's pretty good, probably because my foot is fits this quite well, because my foot's quite wide. If you've got narrow feet, it might be trickier. In terms of picking up the pace, I think it's good. Feels lively, nice and bouncy. Lots of cushion under my forefoot in particular. So you forefoot strikers, you've got no issues with cushioning here. You've got a lot of cushion. And in general, quite a nice bouncy ride, but one which is slightly firmer than the shoes I've been using recently. So if you're one of these people who wants it super soft, that's not this shoe. This is more like Strike Pro Original. It's in the Pro 3 than it is like Strike Pro TPE, which inches in the Pro 4. That's pretty much it. Great shoe if you're a forefoot striker, less good if you're a heel striker. All in all, quite enjoying my first run in this. Good start on Cloudboom Strike. You could be making inroads into my rotation. And with that, I'll see you later. Bye bye. Okay, so some key stats around this shoe. So weight. This weighed in at quite a light 210 grams in my UK size 9. I went true to size in this shoe. I'm glad I did. I've got enough room in the toe box. It's fairly wide for my wide foot. We'll go through the upper in a minute, but generally fit was good. So I recommend going true to size in this shoe. Like I said, not a heavy shoe at all. Feels nice and light. It's got this removable insole, which is quite interesting actually. They call it the bounce board, I think. And it's quite thick. You can see in the forefoot area, it really thickens out. So it acts as part of the midsole. And if I go like that, you can see the actual plate that sits right underneath it. Right, so this protects you from the harshness of this plate. So it's a very interesting design that On have done here. Not sure whether I think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think the more I run in it, the better thoughts I'll have on it. But definitely I like the way they've experimented with this, and it's good to see them trying new things. Anyway, I'll put that back in. What it does mean though, that those of you that use orthotics, this is not going to work for you. That's basically your orthotic there. If you can look here, that it goes up to this point in the upper. So if you put an orthotic on top of that, it's not going to work. Your feet haven't got enough room. So let's go into the upper and talk about room. So ample room for width, but because of this, you've got quite a low volume here. So like me with my fat toes, I do get a little bit of rubbing in this upper. It's not too bad, but it's heightened by the fact that this is not a very stretchable upper. Very scratchy, strong material. Obviously, you can see translucent. You can see my fingers through it. Reasonably breathable. I wouldn't say it's the most breathable, but it seemed fine on the run, and it's quite a hot day today when I ran in this shoe. All in all, I didn't have any problems with lockdown. I was able to do the runner's knot here. The tongue had some really nice pillows. I could cinch the laces tight. You can see it there. Tongue was fine. You've got the heel collar here. You've got some padding, not loads, very flexible at the back. I did get a tiny bit of heel irritation here. Whilst it's flexible, you've got this firm piece of fabric here that can be a little bit harsh on your Achilles. It wasn't too bad, but I think for those of you with really sensitive heels and Achilles, you might have an issue with that, right? But all in all, I thought the upper was fine. It's not my favorite ever upper, but I actually thought it did a job, and I think it looks pretty cool. On shoes generally do, right? Outsole now. Outsole, it looks like it's wearing away already, look, but it's not. That's the design. So I know some previous reviews, they got a bit confused by that. Obviously didn't look at it before they ran in it, and they thought it'd already worn away, which it hasn't. The rubber, it's fairly thick rubber, decent grip. It wasn't wet today, so I can't really say what it'd be like in wet conditions, but I think the outsole is fine. You can see it's got decent coverage. The only bit of exposed foam is here and here. So it's hard for me to say how durable that'll be, but I think, to be honest, it did the job pretty well today. It's got a tiny bit of a cut out here, but nothing too extreme. So you don't have that so much of that splaying that you do get in the Adidas Pro 4 and the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. So all in all, good outsole. So going back to the upper, I would score that about 3.5 out of 5. And the outsole, I'd probably score it somewhere around 3.5, 4 out of 5. Both pretty good, not outstanding, but pretty good. Midsole now, this is where it gets a bit interesting. So you can see you've got the midsole here, but actually with this pull out, with this bounce board, you've got this layer on top. So what that actually means, we'll talk about the stack height in a minute. What it actually means is you actually have about 40 millimeters in the heel, and you've got 36 in the forefoot because of this, because of all this. So you're measuring here, right? So for those of you like me that are forefoot landers, you've got a huge amount of cushion underneath your forefoot. It feels kind of nice. It's not the softest of foam. Now, I've heard people say it's soft. I don't find it soft. It's bouncy and it's quite nice, and you get a real nice compression, decompression. Nothing crazy, but nice. But it's not the softest foam. I think it reminds me most of the Like Strike Pro that's in the Prime X and also in the Adidas Pro 3. If you think of that kind of denser, bouncy foam, that's this one. I think it's going to need some breaking in. I noticed with my 25k run, it started to feel a little bit nicer. My legs are really beaten up at the moment. I was meant to do a half marathon race this morning, but I decided against it. Woke up with my legs not feeling great, so I thought, right, I'll just go locally. And I'm glad I did, actually, because it was a real struggle, that 25k. Whereas the day before, when I run around Battersea and my legs felt a bit better, Battersea Park, it felt really nice, this shoe. So I think it was hard for me to judge it on that 25k. I think my legs aren't the best because of all the mileage I've been doing. And I think this is probably a nicer feeling midsole than I gave it credit for today. It is bouncy, it is propulsive. It hasn't got the most crazy of rockers. In many ways, it reminds me a lot of the Prime X Strung this, in the sense that I feel like there's a lot of cushioning under the forefoot, like with the Prime X. You can see the rocker is very similar. In fact, it's almost identical. And it felt, I got a similar sort of experience. Thickness of cushion under the forefoot, the similar kind of rocker, not extreme, but nice enough to just keep you flowing. This is very much a bounding shoe, one where you just bound along. It takes the impact. If you land on your forefoot, takes the impact and bounces you forward. Not extremely, it's not an extreme bounce as the Prime X, but the cushioning is definitely similar, and the rocker experience is definitely similar. So it did remind me of that shoe when I was running in it. It also reminded me of an old favorite of mine, the Alpha Fly 1. So those of you that like the Alpha Fly 1, I think you're going to like this shoe. Obviously you haven't got the pods, but it gave me that similar feeling of bounding along and a fun ride. I think that fun is a good way of describing it. But it's not, I've been running in a lot of soft shoes recently, and this midsole is nowhere near as soft as like the TPEE that you get in the Adidas Pro 4 or the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. So if you like really soft foam, you're not going to like this so much. If you quite like the old Light Strike Pro, then you're going to like this. I think that in the Pro 3, you're going to like this foam because it does really remind me of that. This, I think it's Healy HF foam. It's a PIBA based foam basically. So yeah, so I would say really nice midsole. Probably 4 out of 5 I'd give it. I think I still prefer the PIBA that's in Yellow X1 2.0. I still prefer that PIBA. I prefer the rocker in that as well. So I prefer that geometry, but this is actually really nice as well. I think if you like the Sky Paris, for instance, I think you'll probably like this shoe. The problem is you've obviously got a plate as well, and it's quite a high plate configuration because it's, you know, it's right underneath the bounce board that I took out, the sock liner. The problem I think you're going to have with this shoe is you're comparing it against those shoes, and I'm just not sure it's quite as quick, it's quite as bouncy, quite as propulsive as the like Sky Metaspeed Sky Paris, for instance. It hasn't got the rocker that the Edge has got. It hasn't got the extreme rocker or the crazy bouncy foam that the CLX 1.2.0's got. So it's got a lot of competition, and at £260, which is a hell of a lot of money, you know, would I recommend it? So let's go through some of the pros and cons, and at the end I'll give you an idea of whether I recommend this shoe or not. So things I like about this shoe. So I like the look. I think, as always with On, they've produced a nice looking shoe. Not sure I like this. They could have got rid of the On running wording there, but I mean, generally I quite like it. I like how they've thought about innovation with the sock liner. They've tried something new here, and I think that's a good thing. Have a look at that again. It's ridiculous. So I quite like that. I like the fact that the upper is kind of lightweight. It was pretty good, and the outsole is pretty good as well. I think the midsole is good as well. It's nice and bouncy, just not as bouncy as some of the others out there, and not as soft as some of the others. So just bear that in mind. What I didn't like about this shoe, I got a bit of heel rub, which I never like. So there is some issues with this upper. It wasn't terrible, but it was there. I felt it. It felt a bit firm at times. I think you've got a lot of foam under your forefoot, and this, like I said, it's a bit like the older Light Strike foam that you've got in the Pro 3, which is quite dense. And if you add to the fact it's got a plate there and a lot of foam, it feels like a bit of a thud sometimes when you land. It's not what I would call a soft bounce, but it does bounce you and bound you along. So yeah, so it can feel a bit firm. You know, at some points during that 25k, I was thinking, God, I wish I'd have got my Cielos on because they'd be nice and soft. So that's maybe says more about me than the shoe. I've got used to these softish foams at the moment, so just bear that in mind. It's not as soft as those. And also the price, I mean, like £260. I don't like that price. I think it's way overpriced. Again, I'm going to use the ASICS shoes, the Metaspeeds, as a barometer of what price should be. £220 should be about the right price. I mean, that's what I'll say about the pros and cons. I think if they sorted out the price and they made this midsole slightly softer, I think you've got and slightly more propulsive, I think you've got a real winner. They could, for my liking, I'd like a more aggressive rocker as well, and then you've got an absolute winner of a shoe. So I'm very interested in where they go with this Cloudboom series. It's their kind of alpha fly, and the Echo is more of their vapor fly. And I much prefer this one. I think this is the best on shoe out there on the market. For use that if you want an on shoe, and I know a lot of people do because they're synonymous with style, I think this is the best one to race in out there. So if you're committed to buying on and you want a fast shoe, this is a good one. So let's go through some categories before we finish. Speed, I think it's a decent shoe in terms of speed. I don't think it's as fast as like the Hoka CLX 1.2.0. I don't feel it's as fast as the Metaspeeds, particularly the Edge, but I think it's comparable with some of the other offerings. So certainly kind of in line with the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2, and certainly I don't think it's as quick as the Adidas Pro 4, but it's decent. It's a pretty good shoe. I wouldn't use this necessarily for 5Ks. I'll test it out over 5K. I think this is more of a half marathon shoe if I had to pick a distance, maybe 10K half marathon. And then for marathon, I might want something a bit softer, a bit more compliant, and something that's got a bit more of a rocker. So in terms of stability, I have no issues with stability. You've got a nice wide forefoot area. For those that land on the heel though, it's fairly narrow, so you might have more of an issue heel striking in this shoe. When I heel striked, it felt okay, but nothing more than okay. There's the transition from heel to forefoot, I didn't think was the best, but it wasn't terrible like the Adidas Pro 4, for instance. In terms of durability, I just don't know. It feels like it should be durable, but I've got no idea. I haven't run in it enough. 30K I've run in doesn't give me enough to know whether it's durable or not. What I do know is this foam's quite dense, so I think it might be quite durable. I think it needs breaking down a bit, just like the Adidas old Light Strike Pro did as well. And then obviously we touched on price. The price is not good in this shoe. Overall, I think this is a really nice shoe. I think if you bought this shoe, you're buying a good shoe, a good racing shoe, one that I think will give you a lot of assistance and a lot of bounce, particularly from that 10K to half marathon distance. Is it up there with the very best? Probably not, but it's not far off. I mean, it's a really nice shoe, and one that you can have a lot of fun and enjoy your running in. And that's kind of all I want to say on this. So in the comments, let me know what you think of this shoe, if you've tried it, whether On shoes appeal to you or not. This definitely is their best racing shoe by quite some way, I think. And so, like I said, if you're committed to buying On, this is the one I would buy. It's just way overpriced. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Let me know if I've missed something in this review, but generally I like the shoe. I can't say too much bad about it. I just feel like it's a victim of all the competition out there. And if this was to come in at £220 instead of £260, then we could be having a different conversation. So I would say for most of you out there, I would go with the Meta Speeds, or I'd go with the, even like if you can get the Alpha Fly 3 on discount, I would go potentially with that over this shoe. The Hoka Cielo X1 2.0, if you've not got any stability issues, ankle problems. That's all I want to say. Hopefully you found that useful. But like I said, let me know in the comments if there's anything I've missed or anything questions you want to ask about this issue. Have a great day. I'll see you soon, and bye-bye.